Hey guys, I appreciate you tuning into this video. This is basically going to be a documentary of my initial break-in procedure on my first ever brand new truck that I special ordered from Mark Dodge down in Louisiana. And it's basically going to be a compilation of a bunch of clips starting from the moment I picked the truck up at Mark Dodge, driving it back home, and ending basically now where we're at. We're just at 1,800 miles. And I'm going to go through some of the common questions that people have when they get a brand new vehicle. What break-in procedure is there, or is there any? A lot of manufacturers agree that you shouldn't tow for the first 500 miles, but then there's a pretty big variation between, should you limit your speed for any number of miles? Should you limit the amount of towing or how you're towing for the first however many miles? And one unfortunate thing I've seen recently is all the manufacturers are no longer recommending you do oil changes or fluid changes right off the bat, which I think is pretty dishonest, because if there's any residuals or trash inside your system from the manufacturing process, you're definitely going to want to get those out as soon as possible. And so we'll go over some of the fluid change things, and then we'll basically wind up back here on this trip I'm on right now. And so I'll try to keep it brief, but you're going to see me drive from Louisiana to Texas and then all the way back up to Nebraska. The trip didn't go exactly as I had planned. I had this whole thing mapped out. I would drive 500 miles from Louisiana to my friends in Texas, and then when we were going to get some trailers hooked up and do some towing and then do all the fluid changes. And then he really didn't get things lined up at all. We ended up not towing anything at all. We never went anywhere. We were supposed to haul the rock crawler to the off-road park, and that never even happened. So I just made it home, and then I did the rest of the break-in at home. But short story long, basically for this vehicle, this break-in, it really could have been completed at 600 miles. Reason it's at 1,800 is just because I had to drive all the way back to Nebraska before I could finish it. So without further ado, I'll send you to Louisiana, and I'll let you guys sit back and enjoy. Just got my very first new truck in, running on about 3 hours of sleep, and getting ready to drive this thing to Bandera, Texas, which is about 10 hours away. All right, so one thing you want to check first off is going to be your fuses and your relays, because watch how these are all not seated. You got to push all those down. Or you can get major trouble codes, and all it is pushing these in. All right, boys and girls, here we are, brand new 2025 high output Cummins 3500 dually. And what do I got on the odometer? 13 miles. Got the truck with 11 miles on it. I've driven 2 miles so far, and now I'm pulled over because I want to go through a checklist that I came up with. Now this is going to be like the ultimate break-in checklist. So I pulled this from some of my old Cummins trucks, my 94, my 2002, 2006 LBZ Duramax, this 2025's owner manual, and this is what I came up with. So for the first 100 miles, we're not going to use cruise control for the first 500 miles. Don't go over 55 miles an hour. Don't idle. Vary your speed. No cruise control. Don't downshift to stop. as far as the brakes go, light stops for the first 200 miles. And what we're going to be focusing on immediately right now is drive 20 miles, then we'll stop and let it cool down. We're going to take our infrared thermometer and measure the diff and make sure it doesn't get over 300 degrees. And we want to do this till we hit 100 miles, and then the diff fluid temp should equalize somewhere between 250 to 275. It's pretty warm here today. It's in the 90s. We're down here in Louisiana at Mark Dodge in Lake Charles, and I've got about a 450 roughly mile trip to where I'm headed in Texas. So I'm going to get going here because we're going to have lots of stops here to do these 20-mile trips to get up to 100. And what the point of all this is, it's braking in your ring and pinion so it operates nice and quietly. Basically, you don't overload it and start out with a bad mesh pattern. While I'm sitting here in gridlock traffic trying to get across this river, just give you a little update. Here's my temps. It's currently 92 degrees outside, and everything's running nice and cool with the truck itself. I'm using manual mode to shift into first gear, and I'm obviously driving on the pedal now, but it's nice in this stop and go traffic because it'll just idle along. You don't have to touch the brake. But we got 92 degrees outside. Hopefully we get moving here pretty quick. Pretty cool bridge. All right, we're here after our first 20 miles. And I'm about 132 degrees on the front side, at 135 on the back. So we're not getting hot at all. Very cool. I'm driving down through the bayou, Louisiana. Pretty cool scenery for an old Nebraska boy. Lots of traffic holdups, but you know what? It's funny how much less aggravated a person gets by traffic holdups when you're not in a hurry to get anywhere. Because we're trying to keep this thing at a max speed of 55 miles per hour. So I'm taking these back roads to my friend's house that are 55 mile an hour highways. And it's just a nice scenic drive, you know, not being in a hurry to get somewhere and trying to drive 80 miles per hour. We're headed down to the Gulf of America, so I can say I've been there. Stick my toes in the water, and we'll do our second ring and pinion temperature check once we get there. I have a feeling this 12-inch axle is going to need some good towing weight behind it to get it to really break in and get hot. I'm not sure we're really going to put a lot of stress on it since we've got the 342 gears, but we have like the super deep geared 8-speed tranny, because all your gear reduction gets done before the ring and pinion pretty much. So I have a feeling we're gonna have to load this puppy down. Just one interesting thing, I've gotten the transmission to shift into 8th gear as low as 49 miles per hour. And we're driving at like 1,000 RPM right now in 8th gear, so it'll let her lug. That part's kind of nice. There's some other river, not sure which one. Definitely lots of cool scenery down here. Temperatures are still staying ice cold, 154 on the transmission, and it was up to 93 degrees here just a minute ago. Here we are at the Gulf of America. The come under here and check the rear diff. Up to 145 this time. I can smell the paint kind of starting to cure on it. 139. I'm gonna do what the book says and let it cool down for a minute. I'm gonna go stick my toes in the water. All right, so we're gonna try out 4 low, because that's one thing I never did on a test drive. Okay, so it defaults to 2nd gear in 4 low, and it's already pretty crazy low. So now I'm wondering, can we manual shift into 1st? Yes. And it is pulling through the brakes. This is like stupid low, because it's 2.64 to 1 transfer case, and then 4.89 1st gear ratio. Yeah, it takes the foot mashed all the way down in the brake pedal to keep it from moving.
In 1,000 feet, turn right onto 15th Street.
And we just rolled over 100 miles. So we're supposed to baby it for the first 100 miles, most of all. So I'm gonna find a place to pull over real quick and measure the rear diff temp and see if it's even gotten hot. All right, our max temp on the front side of the diff is 138. There you can see on the back, it's 152. So I think I'm not gonna heat this rear end up driving around 55 mile an hour. I have a very strong feeling it's gonna require towing fairly heavy to get this ring and pinion hot to break in and season. And so honestly, I think I'm gonna get rid of the 55 mile an hour speed limit for the rest of my trip today. Just drive like normal so I can make a little better time. You can see we were getting about 17.7 miles per gallon before I stopped and let it idle. So we'll do highway speeds. The other part is I was doing 55 to 60 in a 55 mile an hour zone, and people were tailgating me and then passing me and making a point to cut me off, and they're peppering the windshield. We got 135 on the front, 136 on the rear, and that's after doing 74 to 80 miles per hour. So definitely just gonna drive this thing highway speeds, interstate speeds. Not gonna worry about the 55 mile per hour rule for the first 500 miles. I'll just leave that to the towing part. So again, we just got done going. We're at 214 miles, and that last 100 miles was done at speeds of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So our unloaded highway miles, I don't think we're going to be able to heat that ring and pinion up. I think we're going to have to put the trailer on, get some weight behind it, and tow heavy before we can really break this ring and pinion in. Well guys, I made it. Sure if you're seeing all these deer over here, my friend's yard. I'm just hanging out in his yard, having a party. Well guys, I got up at 2 a.m. this morning, flew to Dallas, then had a 4-hour layover, flew from there to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and drove to Bandera, Texas. I put 450 miles on the new truck. As you can see, this says we average 17.3 miles a gallon. It's actually 17.4 till I pulled up this huge hill right at the very end in the last 2 miles. But I stopped and I checked the differential temperature every 100 miles, and it never got over 160 degrees. Got up at 2 this morning and it is 1:43 the following morning. by the time I get to bed, I'm going to have been up for 24 hours with lots and lots and lots of miles under my belt. So we'll get back at her here tomorrow. All right, we're at 499 miles, and I've babied this thing. So we're getting ready to hit 500. So right before I hit 500, I want to do like a wide open throttle launch, just so we can do back to back and see if there's any truth to there being detuning below 500 miles. So unfortunately, we're in some pretty hilly area, but this isn't going to be real scientific. I just want to kind of get a seat of the pants feel and look at the boost, see what the max boost is. So I saw 28. $30. And there's 500 miles. So we'll get up here and stop and do this again and just see if it, and maybe, I don't know if you'd have to turn the truck off. I guess I can pull up and we'll shut her off. See if it like does some kind of reset. All right, so we just had a nice conversation and shut the truck off and restarted it to see if there's any difference. All right, doing a little bit of a rolling start here. Still only seeing 28 PSI. Mike, do you feel any difference?
Not really.
Yeah, I'm gonna call that myth busted. It didn't just all of a sudden get another 300 foot-pounds of torque or anything. Don't get me wrong, it feels great, but I don't think there's a magical computer detune for the 500 mile marker. But guys, we made it to 501 miles, so we're gonna go fuel up. Kind of just ruined my mileage. We were up to 17.4, now we're down to 17, but we're actually gonna go fill up now, see how the first 460 miles did for mileage, and then probably gonna go do the first oil change. All right, guys, we are on the way from Texas back to Nebraska, currently 892 miles, and I did not end up doing the 500 mile break-in oil change for the engine because I crawled underneath to look at what size the socket was to take the drain plug out, and there was engine oil all over the spot between the engine and transmission, so basically coming out of the bell housing. So yeah, I don't know if I got a rear main seal issue going on, but we're gonna double the miles, more than double the miles. It'll be pretty close to 1,500 miles by the time I make it home, and then I'll just have to park it and let it sit for a day or two and see if that leak is still there or if that was some kind of like residual oil from assembly. But I'm certainly not going to waste my own oil and filter on an oil change if it needs to go in for a warranty rear main seal fix, I guess. It sounds like a free oil change to me, and a lot of pain for the dealer. So anyway, we did not do the engine oil change, otherwise I would have. And as far as the gear lube change, I'm going to wait till I get home and hook up the trailer. So yeah, didn't really turn out the way I expected it to at all. We didn't get to do the gear lube or the engine oil, and didn't get to do any towing. But I guess I'd rather have found the problem with the leak before doing an oil change instead of after. I guess I'll catch you when I get home and let you know what I find with the oil leak. As far as driving the truck goes, I did the 500 miles with, very light acceleration, light braking, no cruise control, no downshifting, no turbo brake, no tow haul mode. And so now I'm using cruise control. We're going over 55. Actually, we're doing 75 right now. The adaptive cruise control is freaking awesome, and I'm just driving all the time with the automatic exhaust brake on. If I'm towing, I'll turn it on to full. But every day, daily driving, I'm just gonna leave it in automatic mode. It's freaking awesome. Braking has never been so effortless. So pretty much loving it so far. Well, keep you guys posted. All right, guys, I think we're gonna check our diff fluid temp one last time. It is, what is it? It's 93 degrees outside, so we're gonna see what this fluid temp's at. Driving empty, unloaded. 146 from the front side and 150 from the back. So I believe I'm going to consider the initial break-in on this truck completed. That takes care of the first 500 miles of unloaded driving, and I'm going to consider the trailer towing part break-in done as well. So the hottest we saw the rear diff unloaded on the first 500 miles was right around 160, 170. And so I was going to do the gear lube change at 500 miles or shortly thereafter. We were going to try to do some heavy towing right at 500 miles. That ended up getting pushed off towards like 1750. And I did the 61st towing miles as light as possible, as easy as possible. Diff didn't get hot. It got up to like 160. And that was on the hottest day, you know, one of the hottest days. It was close to 100, mid to high 90s. Not going to get a much better testing day than that in Nebraska. We did the first 60 miles of easy towing. The diff temp was still ice cold, so we went right to it. We maxed out the truck 47,100 pounds, and I still only got the diff up to 160 degrees. And so I feel like that must be kind of the hot temperature for this diff, is in that 160, 170 range. If I'm not going to get it over 160 towing 47,000 pounds when it's over 90 degrees, I think that must be kind of the hotter temp, and maybe 140, 150 is your cooler temp. So I'm going to do the gear lube change when I get home from this trip today, and I'm going to consider our initial break-in completed. And so I want to ask you guys, I didn't think you were supposed to be able to see this screen unless you had something plugged into one of your trailer plug connectors, and it reset on me. So I actually have 100 miles towed with a trailer right now, and it's only showing 31. I'm not sure why this is showing up. Shouldn't this be hidden if my trailer's not plugged in? I'm a little disappointed because I thought this was going to track my total trailered miles of all time, because I really want to count up until 6,000 miles, because they say that's usually when one of these Cummins trucks is fully broken in, is when you get up to 6,000 miles of towing. Anyway, we got our first oil change done after we got back. I was going to do that at 500 miles, but we thought we had an oil leak potentially, so I wasn't going to risk a $100 oil change if a factory warranty oil fix was going to give me a free, quote unquote, free oil change with it. So we did that closer to 1,600 miles, and then we'll be doing the gear lube change now when I get home. So I was going to make the full break-in process all one video, but I don't want to drag it out. So those will be their own separate videos, the engine oil change. Plus, I think people will just want to see that as its own video for reference. And then the gear lube change, I'll make that its own video. So I'm considering the truck broken in. Do I think all that was necessary looking back? Well, I think the biggest takeaway here is everybody references speed. So they say don't go over 50 miles per hour. But really what they should be talking about is your pinion speed. The pinion is what drives your ring gear. And when that's a numerically lower ratio, like 342 to 1, it only takes 3.42 turns of that pinion to turn the ring gear one revolution. Now, trucks used to have 410s, which means that pinion had to spin 4.1 times to turn the ring gear once. So 50 miles per hour with a 410 would be spinning that pinion a lot faster, a lot more revolutions per minute than with 342s. And so I don't think 50 is really accurate. I think you can do the math. Maybe it's over 60 miles an hour that you shouldn't drive, but what I'm getting at is I think the old numbers really don't apply anymore. They need to update the manual. Nothing got hot on us. I was actually kind of disappointed because I don't know if the ring and pinion got that work hardening heat treatment that you would normally get. But maybe they do that from the factory now too. I don't know. Would I do anything any differently if I went out and bought a new truck? I would still do the first 100 miles right off the dealer's lot, really easy. Drive those first couple miles, let it cool off, drive a few miles, let it cool off, and then the first 60 miles of towing, I would also take it easy there. Other than that, I don't think I would really worry too much about the first 500 miles being all that easy on it. I still wouldn't tow until I hit 500 miles. And I would still do the engine oil change at 500, and I would do basically the first 500 miles of driving. I would do my 60 miles with the trailer, and then I would do the gear lube change as soon as possible because there's lots of crap in there that you want to get out as soon as possible. So for those of you who are OCD like me, want to do things by the book or do it the best and safest way possible, hopefully this little documentation of my trip helps you out. I don't think there's as much to worry about as some people think. And I know people that buy brand new trucks, hook up to a trailer and go straight to work and don't have any brake in it at all. So those trucks are making it. They're not breaking down like crazy. So if you want to play it safe, I would follow this video. But then again, if you got to get to work, I think you probably have pretty good odds of just going straight to work. So today we're just going on a little road trip. It's like 40 mile an hour wind, 93 degrees. We're gonna go check out a couple different things. I'm looking for a different tailgate without the big goofy Ram logo. And we're gonna go measure some Power Wagon fender flares, see if those are gonna solve our tire coverage issue that I'm gonna have with these aftermarket wheels. Tomorrow the truck's going back to the dealership to get the crooked bed re-welded and fixed so the tonneau can close properly. I'm hoping that doesn't take more than a week, and then I'm hoping that shortly after that I can make my trip out to Vegas. I got to go pick up a new CNC plasma table, so that's about an 18-hour drive one way. I'm gonna be taking the 20-foot bumper hitch car trailer. Get to go on the Eisenhower Pass, and we get to go through all of Colorado into Utah into Vegas, and I might come home through Wyoming. I haven't quite decided yet how I'm going to come back, but I'm really looking forward to that trip in this truck. That trip to either Moab or Vegas is exactly why I wanted this truck, for the exhaust brake, the bigger brakes, the 8-speed transmission, better cooling package. We couldn't even get this truck hot on a 90-something degree day with 47,000 pounds in tow. And so I'm not concerned at all. Granted, it's a brand new truck. Let's see where she's at with 150,000 miles of dirt. But hopefully I can keep things clean enough that we maintain this cooling capacity, because it is amazing. As far as mileage goes, I'm really not going to pay too much attention to it quite yet. We've been driving in really bad conditions. I did get the tonneau cover installed, if you can see it back there, but it's not really sealed properly, so I can't wait to see what the mileage is after the bed gets straightened out and we get to drive in some calm weather. I appreciate you guys tuning in on my journey from the dealership of my first brand new truck and the break-in procedure. And hopefully I can bring you lots of informative videos about this truck as time goes on. So with that being said, I'll wish you farewell, and we'll catch you in our next video. Thanks, guys.